Hi, Dr. Smith and Stacy. This is Mallory Slominski, and this video is explaining how my copyright lesson project meets the requirements of the Assure model. I really liked this graphic, this roadmap that takes us on a journey of the Assure model, and I'm going to go through each one of these letters and discuss how the lesson that I designed to teach students about copyright rules fits the within the Assure model. So first is analyze learners. So these learners that I created this presentation for are 5th grade students at an elementary school in Mrs. Smith's class. It's a general education class, but within that class there are students that are identified as gifted. There are students that are multilingual students, and there are students that are being serviced under special ed umbrellas as well. These students have little to no background knowledge on copyright rules, and they have varied learning differences and needs. And so the good thing about creating the lecture in the style that I did and using the Screencast-O-Matic is that there is print available for students to see that need print resources. There's the audio. Students can pause, back up, can watch the video, listen to the video as many times as they need. And for students that may have more background knowledge than others, they can speed the video up. They can kind of slide forward if they feel like they know this information. So there is an ability for varied learners to have their needs met. The standards and objectives that are met within this lesson are ISTE 1.2c. Students demonstrate an understanding of and respect for the rights and obligations of using and sharing intellectual property. And then I also identified 2 AASL standards that also fit the goals and objectives of this lesson. And the first one is responsibly applying information, technology, and media to learning. So through the project that they're going to do with Mrs. Smith, they will need to responsibly apply that information to the learning that they're doing. And then the second one is understanding the ethical use of information, technology, and media. And that really is what is covered in my copyright lesson that I created for them. The third step in the Assure model is selecting strategies and resources. There's a lot of strategies and resources for this lesson. So I created the Google Slides to teach them about copyright rules. The instructional method is really direct, explicit instruction. I used Screencast-O-Matic to record my audio over my slides. If I were going to be implementing this with students, I would create a Kahoot to help them practice their new learning. I would also create a quiz to formally assess their learning, and then I did create a rubric, which I'll show shortly, that could really help students know what the success criteria is, and then help Mrs. Smith and I accurately evaluate them. So these strategies and resources are like the bridges between what students know, their beginning points, and our learning objectives and their ending points. So these instructional strategies and resources are appropriate for achieving our lesson objectives. Here's the rubric that I created. I thought about what was most important from the copyright presentation that I created for them, and I thought terms and definitions would be important for them to understand. Relevance. When I first started thinking about this, I thought, especially the audience that I chose, 5th grade students, I think it would be really important for them to understand, why do I need to know this information? So that's why that's included on the rubric. I think it's important for them to understand the 4 factors of fair use. And then the bulk of the rubric is about the copyright rules themselves and students' level of knowledge and understanding of those. So next is utilizing the resources. And again, I've got a link to the copyright lesson in here. Other resources used are going to be Kahoot, the quiz, the teacher's final project, and then the rubric that I created. And so from our textbook by Smaldino and others, they recommend in this utilize resources step of the Assure model to think about the 5 Ps. Preview the resources, which I've done. Prepare the resources, which I've done apart from the Kahoot and the quiz, but that I would do if I was implementing with actual students. Prepare the environment, prepare the learners, and then provide the learning experience. So step 5 in Assure the R is require learner participation. So obviously their participation, their attention is going to be needed during the direct explicit instruction, but also their more active participation is going to be needed during the Kahoot, where that will allow them to practice their new knowledge and to receive feedback on if they've remembered everything correctly and how they're applying that knowledge. The quiz will formally assess their level of understanding, and then the rubric will help me accurately evaluate their knowledge of copyright. And the last step in Assure is the E, evaluate and revise. And again, we've got the Kahoot, the quiz, and then the teacher's project. If I were to implement this lesson, this step would be where I would evaluate its impact on student learning. The Kahoot, the quiz, and Mrs. Smith's final project will provide evidence if students achieved our intended outcomes, and we'll also examine our entire instructional process. And we will be able to, through these tools, see, did students achieve the goals that we set out for them at the beginning? Here are the resources, the references and resources I used in creating this Assure copyright model video. Thank you so very much.